My sources from Charlie's family told me that Charlie, and I'm relaying a message from family, he did not agree with who Candace had become in the last 2 or 3 years. He was respectful of her because it wasn't in his nature to attack a friend, but he absolutely did not agree with where she was going. And I know that there are members of his family who really resent the way she's um, degrading his legacy.
So the audacity of this woman, who the hell owes you anything? Were you Charlie Kirk's keeper? I mentioned that she's very self-entitled. So in her response today on her show to Turning Point and Blake, she says basically, well, finally, thank you. This is what I mean, you could have just done this months ago, and then I wouldn't have had to have done all these programs, and I wouldn't have had to call you out and stuff. I mean, we could have done this anytime. And I just think to myself, the audacity of this woman, who the hell owes you anything? Were you Charlie Kirk's keeper? Were you, other than being a has-been associate of his and someone that, frankly, in my opinion, he was basically just trying to keep this crazy nut in his corner so that she didn't turn against Turning Point? Charlie Kirk, I think, was a smooth operator. And I don't say that to denigrate him, but his bio has been rewritten by people who have now tried to turn him into some kind of a saint. The guy was also a smooth operator, and I think that he was trying to kind of keep he was keeping kind of Candace sort of in this corner in a way, and telling her perhaps things that he thought she wanted to hear about, I'll bring you back into the fold one day or whatever. I don't know. But I do not think that they were best buddies. And I think that everybody, you know this too, almost everyone in Candace's past, at some point they learned that you have to be wary of her. And that's why when you look at her past, her professional paths, you see generally a lot of broken relationships and a lot of partnerships that didn't work out. And she's changed her ideological perspective dramatically over the years from when she was doing the leftist thing with Social Autopsy. So anyway, I don't think anyone owes her anything. And the idea that Turning Point should have given her evidence or should have disclosed their financial books to her or why?
That's the entitlement is insane. First of all, she counts on her audience not knowing anything. And I know Kelly's in the chat. And if Kelly, if you want to speak up and add anything, I would love to have you. I'll read it out loud, and I'll interrupt what we're doing. But
Yeah.
She counts on her audience not knowing anything about like trials, legal things. So everything's about her. Why haven't they given me this? And I'm explaining it. Kelly says, keep your friends close and your enemies closer. Yes. So I feel like my sources from Charlie's family told me that Charlie, that was his mantra, keep your enemies closer. He was class act. He did not agree with, this is what I've been told. And I'm relaying a message from family. He did not agree with who Candace had become in the last 2 or 3 years. He was respectful of her because it wasn't in his nature to attack a friend, but he absolutely did not agree with where she was going. And I know that there are members of his family who really resent the way she's degrading his legacy.
Well, she is degrading his legacy. And I also don't appreciate her pretending that she's actually doing him a favor. If I were in a room with Candace, I would, and I had like truth serum that I could give her, I would say, Candace, do you think that Charlie Kirk wants you to continue what you're doing? Because she is hurting his wife. And by the way, I just want everybody to say, I acknowledge I have been critical of Erica Kirk. You can look at my YouTube. You can see a few videos that I did where I was pointing out what I thought was her inconsistency and being sort of more of a traditionalist trad type, but also CEO type. I'm not a hardcore right winger, whatever. So I want to be above board about that. But what Candace has been doing to Erica Kirk, and Candace will say, well, I haven't accused her of anything, but she's trying to this woman is now the CEO of this organization that Candace has basically declared war on. Of course you're trying to hurt her.
That's always what she says. But so she says, I haven't, she focuses on these little points of like, I haven't said, she didn't come out and say, I think Erica killed Charlie. It's
Right.
subtle implications constantly. And it's this hypnotic tactic where it's like, of course we know what she's talking about. So, I went to Utah and I spent 2 days there talking to sources, and I learned a lot about, and I haven't shared most of it, but I mean, those poor kids that were in the audience that saw that happen, they're not okay. And at the end of the day, like, he was brutally murdered in front of us. And I think a lot of us are still digesting that horror and we're still grieving. And I know his family is having a really hard time. So it's a real person. There's a person who was brutally murdered in front of the country, the world. And there are people grieving him. And the way she goes about this, as if she's the only one who cares about him, she's the only one who knows his story and his intentions and his vision. Like, it's horrible because he had a lot of people around him who loved him, aside from his fame.
What I'm doing is just going through what's publicly available, old interviews, old shows that she did on her own YouTube when she was like me and she was just podcasting from her bedroom. She used to go by the title Red Pilled Black, if you remember that. Prior to that, she was a leftist blogger and activist, and she tried to found basically a kind of a semi-doxing website called Social Autopsy. My point, though, is when you look at, as I've been doing, the different iterations of her career, what you see is that there is a pretty extreme paranoia and conspiratorial mindset that she seems to have had for a while. And also, I think that I don't want to diagnose anyone with a mental disorder that I don't know, but I will say that to me, I see some of the behavioral signs of someone with some kind of a cluster B disorder. I'm not diagnosing her, but I'm saying, as someone who has studied a number of these, going back to Amber Heard and Blake Lively, perhaps even, and no, I'm not saying she's exactly like them, but I see a number of the signs of that. It's a very us versus them perspective on the world. It's very paranoid. It's a very black and white dichotomous way of moving through the world. And these people who are inclined this way, they tend to be extremely sharp. They tend to have a raw animal intelligence, but also they go through these cycles of devaluation, as you know. And so initially they might love someone, and then they have a falling out with them, and then suddenly that person is the enemy, that person's a demon. And I just think that it is likely that Candace probably has carried a great deal of resentment toward Turning Point, and maybe even toward Charlie Kirk. I know she wants to act now like they were best buddies, but I think that there's a lot of probably conscious and unconscious animosity there. And I think that what has happened now is she has taken on this adversarial relationship to not only Turning Point, but to the establishment Republican Party and to even Trump, even MAGA world. And so I do agree with you that I think she does not have any kind of allegiance to MAGA anymore, no allegiance to Trump, no allegiance to really anything interested, I think, in actually making this country better. She is interested in uncovering and exposing some kind of like Illuminati Freemasonic cabal that's running this world.
But I don't even know if that's real, because that is, you guys, I can tell you that is what sells. Like, I could go through my analytics, anything a conspiracy with the cabal, which, by the way, I love. You guys know I love that. But so I don't even know, and I'm told by the same source that she does believe what she's saying. But then I went back, and maybe you're going to uncover this, but oh wait, okay. Was she I feel like she's a performer. So people are viewing her as a journalist, and to me, a journalist really is obsessively invested in the truth. So you go in with no narrative, and you're open to changing your mind based on evidence. I think she's a performer who like, to me, I keep saying this, and somebody said it earlier. It's like the WWF of media. So like, you create false conflict and then resolution, and everything's produced, and you're picking what you need to make the fight the most, like, to get everybody involved. So someone's going to have a fake, your fake bloody nose, and there's fake. To me, this is what's happening.